Welcome to the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop, woodworking with an Appalachian flair.
This is Jerill with the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop. Today I want to talk to you about slab identification and pricing. What is the difference between a walnut slab that's sold at a flea market for $50 and a walnut slab that is displayed in a showroom with a price tag in excess of $1,000 and sometimes $2,000? As you can see, there's a big discrepancy there, so there is a need to educate the consumer, the woodworker, or any small business that is just entering the slab market. I'd like to acknowledge the institutions, the businesses, and the individuals that have compiled the information, created a formula and a spreadsheet that will make it easy for individuals to comprehend a fair market value of a slab. The first would be the WERC, which is a Wood Education and Resource Center, located in Princeton, West Virginia, which is my home state. The Wood Education and Resource Center is there to provide educational opportunities for the hardwood forest product industry. So any business east of the Mississippi River has access to this facility and the knowledge and the information that they have. Also like to acknowledge North Carolina State University Wood Products Extension, the Forest Biomaterials Department, College of Natural Resources, and specifically Dr. Harry Watt and Phil Mitchell. Dr. Harry Watt is the one that has compiled the information and created the spreadsheet that we'll be discussing later in this video. That information came from businesses in the slab industry in North Carolina. And specifically, those are Bucky Black with Resource Wood, Daniel Wayne with 3C Forest Products, Dean Kerfman with Oak Hill Iron and Wood. Some people know him as a Big Blue Hammer. And then also Scott Smith with Whispering Pines Farm. Now I know Bucky Black, Dean Kerfman, and Scott Smith have a slab mill, they have a kiln, and they have a showroom. So they mill the slabs, dry the slabs, and then they sell the slabs as well as create a final product and sell the final product. So these businesses have been doing this for several years and they have a great deal of experience and knowledge. So they contributed most of the information to North Carolina State University, specifically Dr. Harry Watt, and he compiled this information and put it in a slab identification system and a slab pricing formula spreadsheet. So let's look at those. But first thing we want to do is identify what is a slab. Now before I start with the identification process of a slab, let's look at the definition of a slab. So a slab is cut from a log and it is a minimum 8/4 thick, that's 2 inches thick, and has live edge or bark on at least one edge. Now this is a definition of a slab. As you can see, it does have straight edge on it, but it does have bark or live edge on sections of it, and it is 8/4 thick. So this is small, but this is the definition of a slab. Now, when you go to market a slab, you will need to know how many board feet are in the slab. And it's very difficult to calculate when you have live edge on both sides. So you need to measure the widest area of the slab and the narrowest area of the slab, and then sort of figure out what the average is and calculate the board feet on that. Most businesses, when they market a slab, they will tell the consumer or the woodworker the widest, the narrowest, as well as the board feet. Now most mills, when they produce a slab, they will cut the slabs thicker than 8/4. The wider a slab is, the more it will distort in the drying process. So a woodworker will need the extra thickness when they go to flatten it, so they still have considerable bulk left on the slab after it has been flattened. So if you are milling slabs, most mills will mill at 10/4 up to 16/4 or even thicker, depending on the width of the slab. So now that we've defined a slab, it is a minimum 8/4 thick and live edge on at least one edge of the board. Now let's look at the slab fabrication process. When you start with a slab, from the very beginning to the final product, it goes through 5 different stages. Each one of these stages requires time, experience, and equipment in order to achieve that level. So in identifying slabs, we look at the 5 different levels the slab goes through, and that helps us to recognize the value of the slab. So the first level of the slab is a slab that is called a green slab, or one that is direct from the sawmill. Some people will call it a wet slab. Now, each one of these levels, I'll tell you what the condition is of the level, as well as what the use is of that particular slab. So the first level is a green slab from the sawmill, and the only woodworking use for that slab is to air dry it or properly kiln dry it. It is not good for any other use. Now I know there are a lot of farmers that will take a green slab and use them for hog pens or dividers in a barn or something, but from a woodworker's perspective, a green slab is only good to be air dried or ready to be properly kiln dried. Now, if the slab is cut from what's called a dead green log, in other words, a standing live tree cut and then immediately milled, then the moisture content in a green slab can exceed as much as 100% moisture content. So that's why a green slab, from a woodworker's perspective, is not good for any use other than air drying or kiln drying. So now let's look at level 2 of the slab identification system. Level 2 in the slab identification process is a slab that has been properly air dried. The U.S. Forestry Service says for my area, West Virginia, the minimum moisture content that I can get by air drying is 12%. So if a slab is properly air dried in my area, the moisture content will be about 12%, possibly as high as 15%. And again, this is not just the surface, but this is all the way to the core. So 12 to 15% moisture content for a slab that has been properly air dried in my area. Now, what is the use of a slab that has been properly air dried? It is ready to be used for anything outdoors. You can fabricate a bench or a sign or something of that nature that's going to remain outdoors. If you're going to use it for anything other than outdoors, then it needs to be kiln dried. And that leads us to level 3. Level 3 in the slab identification process is a slab that has been properly kiln dried. Now again, for my area, which is West Virginia, the U.S. Forestry Service recommends that wood that will be used inside a controlled environment, inside a residential house or inside a commercial building, they recommend that the moisture content be between 6 and 8%. And again, that is not just the surface, that is all the way to the core. So for a properly kiln-dried slab, the moisture content for my area needs to be about 8%. Some slab manufacturers and dryers will allow it to be a little bit higher, like 9%. So a properly kiln-dried slab is ready to flatten if there are no bug activities or no evidence of any bug on the slab or in the slab. If there is any bug activity, any larvae or bug holes, then that slab needs to be heat treated. So again, level 3 is a properly kiln-dried slab. If there is no bug activity, then it is ready to flatten. If there is suspected bug activity, then it is ready for level 4, which is heat treated. So now let's look at level 4. Level 4 on the slab identification process is a slab that has been properly heat treated. That means when it was in the kiln at the end of the drying cycle, the temperature was elevated for about 135, 140 degrees, depending on the moisture content, for a minimum of 24 to 48 hours. That allows the core temperature to elevate high enough to kill any bugs or larvae that is in the slab. So level 4 is a slab that has been properly heat treated to kill any insects, and that slab is now ready to flatten. And flatten is the last process. So let's look at level 5, flattening. Level 5 is flattening a slab. Now there are several different ways to flatten a slab, but they all produce the same result. You want a top surface and a bottom surface to be flat and parallel with one another. So once you've flattened the slab, now it is ready for fabrication. So let's review the 5 stages of a slab. You have the first stage, which is a green slab, fresh from the sawmill. You have a second stage, which is air dried. You have a third stage, kiln dried. You have a fourth stage, which is heat treated for insects. And you have the 5th stage, which is flattened. Okay, now that we've covered the 5 different levels of slabs, as well as how to calculate the board feet in a slab, let's look at the slab pricing spreadsheet that Dr. Harry Watt from North Carolina State University Wood Products Extension developed. Again, he developed this spreadsheet with input from area businesses in the slab industry in North Carolina. Okay, one of the items on the spreadsheet is the board feet or the dimensions of the slab. We've already covered how to calculate that. Another item on the spreadsheet is the 5 levels of slabs. And remember, each level progresses from a green sawmill slab to a final slab ready for use. And each one of those levels requires time, knowledge, equipment, and sometimes space. And that all affects the value of each individual slab level. Now there are other variables on this spreadsheet which fluctuate with the market, and they also change geographically. So as the supply and demand changes or the market fluctuates, it is easy to make a change within the spreadsheet, or geographically you can make a change. Some species are more valuable in one area of the country than they are in another area of the country, and that's taken into consideration in developing this spreadsheet. So the first variable, which is one of the more obvious ones, is the species of the slab. Now what Harry has done is he has given each species a factor. Now the lower, more common slabs are given a lower factor. Pine and poplar is given a factor of 1 or $1. Red oak, a greater quality red oak, is given a factor of 1.5 or $1.50. Cherry is given a factor of 2 or $2. Black walnut is given a factor of 4 or $4. This species factor changes the overall value of the slab at the end of the spreadsheet. Now there's another variable that is very important in the slab industry, and that is called slab style factor. Again, this was developed with information from businesses in the slab industry in North Carolina. So some of the slab style factors would be a grain, a very beautiful abnormal grain such as a crotch, a burl, curly, bird's eye, a nice feather grain. Any grain that is eye-catching will drive the value up. Then you also have worm or insect activities, and perhaps the most common would be ambrosia maple. Nice coloration in the grain from the ambrosia beetle. You also have wormholes, would be another example of some of the insect activities. Then you have knots and limbs within the slab. Now there's several different kinds of knots, so the size and placement of the knots, and the grain around the knots, all of these contribute to the eye-catching appeal of a slab. You also have mineral stains or spalting, which is the decaying process. Then you have the overall shape of the slab, or the shape of the edges, and of course the size. These all affect the value of the slab. So again, there are 3 style factors in determining the value of a slab. Now don't get hung up on the nomenclature. It's very simply called A, B, and C. So let's look at the style factor A. This would be a slab that has the most eye-catching appeal, a lot of character, a lot of wow factor. This is the slab that when a customer comes into the showroom, that is the first one they see and migrate to. So it would have the top value. It would be very appealing to someone interested in slabs. At the other end of the spectrum, you have style C. And this is a very boring, bland, straight-grained, no irregular shaped slab. So it has a lower value. And then between A and C you have B. B is a good-looking slab. It has some of the elements that are found in style A, but not a lot. So again, the 3 style factors, A, B, and C, with A having the most eye-catching appeal and C being the most bland. Now let's look at an example of each one of these. Now for this video, I just brought in some very small slabs that I have, some that's easy to carry in so I don't have to use any equipment or anything to haul it in. So this is a small slab, but as you can see, it is very straight-grained, very bland. It does have a split or a check here, and it does have one little knot. The sides are fairly straight, so this would be a style C. This is not an eye-catching slab. I mean, it is a nice slab, but it does not have the character or the wow factor of an A. So now let's look at a style A slab. Now this is ambrosia maple. You can see the ambrosia streaks in it, and you can see the little holes from the ambrosia beetle. It's got a nice knot down here with some inclusion, a nice spike knot here, a knot here. It's got a nice curvature to the shape. Again, it is not overly large, but it is a nice slab. So this would be considered a style A. However, the size may knock it down to a style B. But you understand now the difference between style A, B, and C. Here would be another example of a style A. Again, it's a very small slab. I brought it because it is small and easy to carry and move around for this video. This is box elder. You can see the nice pink through it where it's been stressed. You can see a little bit of a divot here and a lot of worm activity in it. You've got some nice mineral stain and some unusual grain down here on this end. So this is another example of a style A, but again, the size may hold the value down on it. If it was much, much larger, it would have a higher value. So now, let's look at the slab pricing spreadsheet, which incorporates all of this information. It incorporates the slab board footage. It incorporates the 5 levels of the slab. It incorporates the variables in the geographic and fluctuations in the market. And it incorporates the 3 different style factors of a slab. All of that put together onto this spreadsheet. And now you can see that you, as a consumer or as an individual or a small business just entering the slab market, can take this slab sheet and change some of the variables to suit your area and come up with a fair pricing and a fair evaluation of a slab. So now that you've seen the slab identification spreadsheet and you've seen the slab pricing spreadsheet, I'm sure you'll want to take a little bit of time and digest it and go over it and fully comprehend it and understand it. So if you have any questions or anything, I encourage you to contact Dr. Harry Watt, North Carolina State University Wood Products Extension, or the Wood Educational Resource Center in Princeton, West Virginia. I'm available to answer questions if I can. So I hope this helped you. If you have anything to do with slabs, it should give you a good insight into the value of a slab. This is Jerill Vance with the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop reminding you, be proud of your Appalachian heritage.